Hi, I'm Mac with P&P Engineering. Today we're going to show you how to install our full replacement all aluminum roof rack on your second gen 2005 and newer Nissan Frontier. This one we're going to go through our bracket system for replacing the OEM roof rack. This will be for a truck that was originally equipped with the roof rack from the factory from Nissan. We'll do another video later on that'll show you how to install the roof rack on a truck that came with a bare roof with no roof rack from Nissan. So we're going to go through the tools and hardware that you need for the installation on this rack and the parts that you'll get in the package with your rack. So you're going to need a T30 Torx to remove your OEM rack. Once your OEM rack is removed, you're going to use new hardware that we provide to the same factory bolt hole locations. If you had a factory rack, you won't be doing any drilling new holes in the roof. For our new hardware, you'll need a 10mm socket for the brackets. You'll need a 7/16 socket to attach the crossbars into the side rails, and you'll need a 4mm Allen key to attach the wind dam onto the crossbars. That'll be the entire installation. So now let's get started and show you our bracket system. We've got them clearly labeled front and rear with an F and an R. They will be directional side to side. You'll see that the holes won't line up or won't line up very well if you get them on the wrong side, but your upright will always face to the outside of the truck, your bolt holes towards the center, so that those will be essentially hidden once the rack is installed. And on the OEM version, you will get 16 of these large washers to reduce down the holes in our brackets to the very small 6mm bolts that go through and into the factory holes. So now let's go ahead and get started installing this rack. So we're going to start with our rear bracket. It won't really matter whether you start with front or rear, but you'll just line the holes up with the factory holes in the roof. Grab a 6mm bolt, lock washer, flat washer, and insert it down into the factory threaded holes. You go finger tight with all 4 of those on your rear bracket. Just leave it a little bit loose so that that can move around, and once we get the entire rack in place on the top of the roof, then we'll go back and tighten up all the bolts. Okay, now that all 4 of those are finger tight, we're going to grab our front bracket, come to the front, and the same way, just line that up with the original holes. Get that same stack and just go finger tight with all of these in the same way. Just tight enough to still be able to move that around a little bit. After we put our brackets on, we bring the rest of our rack assembly back over, line our side rails up to all 4 of our brackets, and we'll get ready to bolt our side rails back to our brackets. You'll use the 5/16 bolts, which is going to be your 1/2 inch ratchet and socket to bolt your side rail to your roof bracket. We're going to get these close, but not all the way locked down, just to keep everything in place real nice. And the next step I like to do is pull the front crossbar back off of the rack to install the Airdam. It's a lot easier to line up the track nuts that you use to hold the Airdam down with this rail off of the truck than it is to try to slide all the track nuts into the right position with the Airdam between your crossbars, because that fits fairly tight, while kind of overhead at shoulder height or head height, depending on how much or little lift you have on your truck. It's just a lot easier to do it on the bench on a flat surface. You can use your tailgate of your truck, makes it nice and easy. Much easier than trying to do all of that on the truck. So we'll go ahead and uninstall this piece of extruded aluminum that we use to set up the rack, install the Airdam, and then put it back on the truck with the rest of our pieces of extruded aluminum. So now that we have our cross member uninstalled, we're going to use T-nuts that we supply, slip inside of the track, and we put the pilot up because we're using short hardware. And you're going to put 5 of these in each track. Once you've got all of these in, you're going to align them to the mounting holes in our Airdam. So now that we installed our wind fairing onto our front crossbar with our track nuts and our 1/4 inch button heads, we're going to reinstall it into our side rails with the 1/4 inch hardware. That'll slip into both sides. You're going to get 2 bolts per crossbar, and that's for every crossbar front to rear on the rack. You'll do 2 bolts per side. That corresponds with the 2 channels that you have on each large face. It's a 2-track extrusion. So once the wind dam's in, the next step is going to be just to put the rest of your crossbars in. Put them in as necessary for whatever you're wanting to carry. If you want to do something like a rooftop tent, we recommend doing as evenly distributed as you possibly can and putting your tent across as many crossbars as you possibly can set it on. That'll distribute the load across your side rails and across your brackets and across your roof as best as you can. The rack is not officially rated, as rating is, a third-party destructive testing process that we just haven't had done yet. The rack has been designed and tested to be used with a large 4-person rooftop tent. It has been camped in many, many nights, but again, we do recommend that you distribute that load of your rooftop tent across as many roof rails as possible. So let's go ahead and get those put in, lock down all of the rest of our bolts, make sure everything's tight and everything's covered in silicone over the top. And then the last step will just be to put your headliner back in and you will be finished with your install.